Also, speaking of China, Tesla delivering over 83,000 China-made electric vehicles in September. That's according to data from the China Passenger Car Association. And it marks a record for the automaker, an 8% increase from August delivery numbers. The data comes as the auto sector deals with struggling sales. By the way, even though Tesla had that more than 83,000 deliveries, it's still number 2 behind BYD in China in terms of deliveries. But it does come as we are seeing some challenges, bigger challenges for the automotive industry. And we've got some downgrades for Ford and GM this morning. So, despite Tesla sort of being a bright spot, there are a lot of questions around the auto industry right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at this Ford note out of UBS. That is what is moving Ford stock here this morning. It's just a vicious headline by Patrick Hummel, the analyst there. Calling this report after lightning comes thunder, D/G downgrade to sell. Obviously a play on the Ford Lightning here. And basically Hummel's contention is, hey, Ford just warned in a massive way a couple weeks ago, yet they maintain their full year outlook. Essentially what that means is the bar is very, very high for the fourth quarter. And they may come out in a few weeks and warn again because they are unlikely, potentially, at least according to Hummel, unlikely to meet their margin and free cash flow guidance for that fourth quarter, just given everything that's going on in the auto industry. We've seen weakening prices. We've seen a lot of these cars still sitting on lots. They need the chips. So again, I think it's analysts getting out in front of what could be another warning from Ford.
Yeah, one of the same tunes now that we're hearing from multiple analysts that are growing more bearish on some of the electric vehicle plays, at least right now, more broadly, is exactly what we're hearing from UBS today, saying that the auto industry is rapidly moving towards vehicle oversupply following 3 years of unprecedented pricing power. You heard the same thing from one of the bears at Roth, actually, who had said that capacity is now likely ahead of short-term demand, and that was for a note around Tesla. And so if you do see some of that capacity now start to exceed demand, especially considering the pricing that we're going to be monitoring extremely closely to see where consumers are actually coming back into pricing and being able to purchase vehicles, and that pricing perhaps going to have to come down over an extended period of time too. That's exactly where that capacity, even though they're able to produce, it's going to come down to the sales at the end of the day. And even if you're able to sell into a region in China for Tesla, it's still, how do you beat out the rest of that competition in a market where there are more consumers who have moved towards some of the homegrown automotive brands and brands across other areas of just sales in general, retail. We were talking about that last week as well. Some of the more homegrown brands being able to take more market share recently in China too.
Yeah, no, and just going back to some of these notes, it's a good point, Brad. This sell view by UBS is still the outlier in this industry because I just got a note a couple minutes ago from Citi, and they're already running the numbers on a potential hard economic landing. What would that mean to automakers? This analyst, Itay McCally, we always cite his work here, he's out there on GM and Ford, basically staying optimistic on these companies, looking forward out for a couple years to more of that electric vehicle pivot and how that might do well for sales and profits. But at least in the near term, I got to say that UBS call makes a lot of sense.
I mean, that said, there are 4 sells now on Ford specifically from actually, yes, I guess it's 4 now, including that UBS call. There's a sell from Wells Fargo, one from Daiwa Securities and DZ Bank. So now sort of 2 more mainstream Wall Street banks, if you will, that have these sells on Ford. What also caught my eye is you talk about the EV future of Ford. One of the other comments I believe that was made in that UBS note is that, splitting off the electric arm doesn't necessarily do a lot for the company, which I thought was interesting as well. It might increase transparency, but besides that, it doesn't necessarily achieve a lot. And that's saying something considering how much Ford is sort of betting on that and made that dramatic move, right, to sort of separate that in terms of restructuring.